Hello. Hello guys, welcome. Today we're going to do something which is absolutely unheard of, which is making cybersecurity a little bit more interesting than usual. So this is a topic that is so essential in every small business, in every business, obviously, but one that's often overlooked by small businesses. So I'm looking forward to hopefully changing your perspective on cybersecurity, making it a little bit more engaging for you, and hopefully you'll come out of this with at least 3 key things that you want to implement in your business to be able to give yourself a little bit more protection. So feel free to use the Q&A to ask questions along the way. I will keep an eye on that. And I will just share my screen and swap these around. 1 second. All right. So, share screen. All right. Hopefully you can see this now, guys. Is that full screen? So, small business, big security, defending your business online. Now, most of us, of course, through the Digital Solutions Program and the Rural Woman, the purpose of this whole program is that you're doing digital business. So this is designed to secure your online business, but pretty much every business now, as we know, has an online format or an ability to be at risk through things like, hacking through your Wi-Fi network or actual physical, breaches of your computers or your servers. So it's worthwhile trying to do everything you can to safeguard your business. So a little bit about me, if you haven't met me already, I'm Laura Lovard. I'm the Business and Operations Manager at the Rural Woman, and my career kind of mostly has been around business development, marketing and operations, client servicing, and also events. And what makes me tick, building and developing systems and processes and building businesses from the ground up. So a lot of what I've done in my work has been to help build a business from day one, and also making sure that we're implementing steps along the way as the business grows and as the team grows to make sure that we have a secure business from a cybersecurity perspective. Now, I want to talk a little bit about risks. I don't know if anyone's heard the phrase security through obscurity, but this is the belief that a small business or their team is too small to be a target for cybercrime. So sometimes small businesses will say, we're not going to worry about, putting in a firewall, or we're not going to worry about, getting a cybersecurity policy, insurance policy, because my business is too small. There's no point or there's no reason why anyone would want to attack my business or breach my data or get into my system at all. And I'm pretty sure, raise your hand if you're put into the Q&A if you're one of those people, because it's definitely a thought that normally I think all of us have had, especially when we're working. But we now have a lot more knowledge about cyber risks after especially the main Australian breaches in the recent years, which we've all received a horror email from or about. So Australia's biggest breaches, now, yes, these are big corporations, but they impact your data nonetheless. Canva. So in 2019, 137 million users were impacted. And I'm putting here as well the information that was stolen. So usernames, real names, email addresses, country data, encrypted passwords, partial payment data. That's a pretty big one. So most small businesses will be using Canva. So it's likely that if in 2019 you were involved in that, you would have received a notification. Latitude Financial Services. This one is fascinating. So I'm not sure if anyone's got their business banking or their loans through Latitude, but in 2023, so only last year, 14 million customers impacted, full names, physical addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, date of birth, driver's licenses, passports. That's enough data to do a complete identity theft, as well as simple things like email, name, and address and phone numbers and date of birth can basically get you into any account that you own by just answering those kinds of verification questions that they ask you. Now, this one is an interesting one because it's an ongoing investigation, because the actual data that was stolen from Latitude was about 10 or 15 years old. So there was a really big red flag that went up about why does Latitude still have that data in their records of customers from that long ago who are no longer active, or including those that had no longer had existing accounts with Latitude. So that raises another question around how long is it appropriate to store your customer data, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. And the cost to Latitude by August 2023, and that's literally within the same year, $76 million. So yes, this is huge businesses, but imagine for a small business, even if it was a portion of that, it would be enough to cripple your business, close your business, potentially, depending on your business structure, put your house at risk, put your assets at risk. This is a big scale example of that, but also scary from a customer perspective. This is why we want to protect our customers and implement good security tactics, because how devastating would it be to your business if someone breached your data and took this information of your clients? It would be horrifying. You feel so, so awful, and your reputation would probably be destroyed, and it's very unlikely you would ever be able to bounce back in the business that you're in. Then we've got, obviously, the Optus breach, which was big headlines in 2022. 9.8 million customers, names, date of birth, addresses, phone numbers, passport information, driver's licenses, government ID numbers, medical records, and Medicare card ID. I'm not sure who got caught up in that. I think I was one of them. Bit scary. Estimated cost of the business, $140 million. So again, even imagine if it was 50,000 or 100,000 or 150,000. How would your business cope with that? And obviously the Medibank one, that was another huge one in 2022. That was one I was stuck in as well. 9.7 million customers, names, date of birth, passport numbers, medical claims data, medical records. It cost Medibank $250 million ruling. So they actually had to pay out $250 million to clients as well. So those are some of the big breaches, but these are the reasons why cybersecurity is now such a hot topic wherever you go, why it's one of the pillars in this digital solutions program that the Rural Woman is a part of, or a partnership delivery partner for, and also a reason why now we're more aware than ever about everything that we do every day that risks either our own data, our clients' data, or puts, our identity at risk as well, or leaves things like our bank accounts, open to breach. So why do we protect small businesses? AI and new malware allow for automated attacks that can target hundreds or thousands of small entities in one go. So that's going back to that phrase, which is safety through obscurity, or security through obscurity. So that's no longer actually relevant. So there's now, thanks to AI and thanks to developments in malware, businesses can be actually targeted as a big wash of attacks that happen all at the same time. So it's not like someone's sitting behind a computer and going, I'm going to go target that business. It's all automated. It's one click of a button and your business is included in a batch of thousands that all are attempted to breach in a certain fashion. And you've got to remember as well, small businesses may still handle significant funds or have access to personal records. So if you think of the business or the revenue that goes through your business, or perhaps the money that you pay to suppliers, or if you're kind of like a middleman and you take or manage payments, which then go on to another third party, that can be huge amounts of funds that make you more susceptible or of more interest in kind of cyber attacks. And then, of course, the records that you hold on your clients, normally we at least at a minimum collect full name, email addresses, payment details, and identification in a lot of cases as well. So especially those in the financial services industry or mortgage broking or loans, anything like that, normally you need to request identification. So that's required for anti-money laundering efforts. And that just adds another huge risk of holding that data for a client that is then potentially at risk if you don't have your cybersecurity up to scratch. There are also ways to island hop to larger enterprises from a small business. So you can be used kind of like as a lily pad. They can attack your business, but because your business is also a client of a bigger business like a bank or a an insurance company or a provider of a service, they can actually use your account with them or your business account to island hop into that large enterprise. So it breaches not only your data, it also then goes into the bigger organization. And I know that we in this program only have 20 employees or less, but if you just consider this number, average loss for businesses with less than 500 employees is $3.2 million per attack, plus reputational damage and risk of business closure. So even if you scale that right down, like I said, it could be 100 grand, 500 grand risk to your business that not many people have cyber insurance policies for. So the key of today is we're going to talk about 3 basic must-haves that you really need to have in your business to have as a bare minimum of protection. The number one is the commercial grade antivirus. Now, whenever you buy a laptop, usually like a Windows or a Mac, it comes with some kind of antivirus software on it. It's been pre-installed, and normally that's because the computer maker has, or the software maker has, an agreement with, say, McAfee, that they will, pre-install this security software or this antivirus software onto all of their laptops, and then it gives them an opportunity to get a sale out of you by renewing that when it expires after, say, 3 months or 1 month. So commercial grade antivirus is not the software that was pre-installed on your laptop when you bought it. The purpose of commercial grade antivirus, now you can still buy this online. It's really simple to get, but especially if you have a team, this allows you to manage devices so that you can actually see the protection status or risks that have been coming through or flagged on different computers within your organization. So for this, definitely make sure that you, unless you have a current subscription with the software that was pre-installed on your laptop and you want to sort of utilize that, if it's just sitting there and it's giving you those annoying reminders, go into the settings in your computer and literally uninstall it. And then go and do your research on commercial grade antivirus. There will be big brands that come up like McAfee, like Trend Micro, and you can purchase a business product through them for just one computer or multiple devices. You can also get sort of bundles which will allow you to protect your other devices like iPads and phones, and may include extras like a VPN if you need it, which I'll talk about what a VPN is later. So that's number one basic thing. So if you don't have a business antivirus program on every single laptop that you do business on, it's time to go and do that as your number one item and make sure that that is applied to all of your team members as well. Then there's updating the software on your device as soon as it becomes available. So how many people, again, you're welcome to comment, how many people see the notification on their phone that says, new software update available, click here to restart, that sort of thing. We get them all the time. It can get really painful, especially those using Windows, where it will just be in the middle of your workday, you're in the middle of working on something, and then Windows is like, hi, I'm shutting down now. Like, it's excruciating. But they are critical, especially the ones that are marked critical updates, or say like important new updates or security updates. These ones normally require human consent and interaction. And these are the ones that we also tend to delay actually implementing, because it requires us to click through, review the changes, review the terms and conditions, click accept, restart the device. This includes on your phone as well. So we tend to delay those. Now, I think it was Windows that there was a case where they actually issued an urgent critical update to software. But within the 5 or so hours, I think it was, after they sent this communication out or pushed this notification out to all users, they actually had a cyber breach within that 5-hour window. So if you think about how late you normally leave it, sometimes we leave it until that night, sometimes we leave it till the next day. Anything that requires you to go in and consent and interact with that security update, do that as soon as you absolutely can on all of your devices, your phones, your iPads, your laptops, your work computers, everything, because that window can be really, really small where a security breach can happen. Now, the second one that sometimes I get a little bit of pushback on is the use of a secure password management, or management system. So why isn't Apple iCloud Keychain or Google Password Manager enough? So a lot of people come back and say, Laura, I don't need to have a secure password manager because I already use the Apple iCloud Keychain, or I've got all of my passwords saved in Google. So why isn't that enough? I'm going to show this to you. This is a video that was that really spells out the reason why having one password, say that's the same as your Google account, that allows you to access all of the passwords to every single other account that you have, isn't necessarily secure enough. Oh, no sound. Oh, sorry guys. Thank you for letting me know that. I wonder why that is. I will instead send the link to this for you, and you can watch this one afterwards. I'll send it in the email that goes. I wondered if there might be an issue with the sound on that. Basically, it's a video where they go out and they ask people on the street what are their main passwords for something. And the way the interviewer does it is really, really intelligent. She says, oh, so give me an example of a password that you might have. And they say, oh, it's like my grandma's name and, you know, the year I was born. And she's like, oh, that's so nice. Are you close with your grandma? Yeah, I am. Oh, that's beautiful. What's her name? Oh, it's Claire. Oh, that's gorgeous. Well, that's lovely. And how old are you? And then they answer, and then you get the year, and you can see in time that even if we don't do it, intentionally, there are ways of breaching that main password that you have created for, say, your Google account or for your Apple account, because we tend to pick things that are familiar to us: pets' names, babies' names, our names, years of birth, ages, things like that. And just by pure questioning, sometimes that is really easy to breach, especially if you use that password across a number of different accounts. So my point is that using the Apple or the Google version of that, it is the same password as it is for your email, for example. So your Google password for your email account is the same as what gives you access to all of the saved passwords under that account. So if someone manages to breach your Gmail account, which we've seen the kind of data that we've lost in these security breaches as of late, includes things like email, date of birth, things like that, where someone could potentially call up or use security questions to get access to your inbox. Especially if you've got your business operating on the same kind of profile, then as soon as they're into your Gmail, they've actually got access to every single password that's underneath that. So instead, we use a secure password manager like LastPass or NordPass as examples. So why are these more secure? Normally, yes, there is a master password, but they strongly suggest when you start it that you pick a series of random words and numbers, you create something that is completely obscure, and you change it regularly as well. So you're updating it potentially every 30 days. But there's also multiple security layers built in when you use something like LastPass as well. So they have encryption keys, they've got, alerts that are enabled. It protects your devices and all of your passwords at a much higher level. Stronger encryption. You can enforce multi-factor authentication across all users, especially if you're using a business account. So you can make sure that all of your users, if they log into LastPass, they also have to set up the multi-factor authentication. So it would be a text message to their phone, or it would be a notification that comes through, or it would be a security key generated by something like your Google Authenticator. It can be used on any device. So I use my LastPass on my laptop, and I also have it on my phone, and I have to verify that with my fingerprint on my phone whenever I use it. When I have it on my desktop, obviously my laptop is protected by a password, and then my LastPass is protected by a password, which requires two-factor authentication to be able to log into the account. So you can see there's layers of security, which if someone breached one, they probably wouldn't be able to breach the second. Random password generation. So LastPass and NordPass actually allow you to generate completely random, obscure passwords that are a certain number of characters long when you're creating a new account for whatever software or whatever program or app it is that you're using, and it automatically saves that data as well. And it will pre-fill that when you go to log back into that program. But the random password generation is so much more secure than what you're probably going to be doing again on your Google or your Apple accounts, which is again, picking similar words, similar things that are, pets' names, kids' names, whatever. Saves you from having to come up with stuff that's random, and it saves you from having to remember them or write them down. It gives you warnings for weak passwords and reuse passwords, so you can go in and change them to make sure that you don't have repeat passwords for any of your accounts. It gives you security reports. It will actually identify whether there's been a threat, or if your profile as a whole is not very secure. And it is very difficult to reset your master password. So if you've managed to come up with a really secure master password, and honestly, probably not great advice, but I don't even care if this gets written down on a Post-it note in your house, because the chance of a cyber attacker coming into your house and taking a random Post-it note with a random group of figures on it and knowing that that's your password to your LastPass account, unless you write it on there, is pretty slim. But once you forget that, it is very, very difficult to reset that master password, which means that your data, again, is much more secure. So it's not as simple as, say, Google or iPhone, where you can just go through a series of questions or get it sent to the inbox for a reset link. And it supports fingerprint as well, which I mentioned as well for mobile devices. Then the next part, I think I meant to say 3. Number 3, the third absolute essential in your business that you need to have is to have two-factor authentication and multi-factor authentication enabled on absolutely everything. Yes, it's an absolute pain, I know that, but if anyone can tell me that they absolutely 100% have 2FA or MFA enabled on every single account, then I will give you a year's free membership to the Rural Woman, because I do not believe I have met a single person yet. In fact, I don't even have it. So this is something where you just want to encourage good behavior, especially if you've got team members. And in the case of something like LastPass, you can actually enforce it in the background too. So this is where you go into the settings. It will normally ask you when you're creating an account, but any account that you already have, you can go back into the settings and enable 2FA or MFA. And then you can choose your options. So if you're not great with using something like a Google Authenticator app, you can set it up to just send a text message to your phone. Or it can be straight to your email address. It can send a code. Anything that involves a second step of security is a good option. My favorite is just the Google Authenticator. It's the easiest to use and completely free. And just be aware that when you're searching for a Google authentication or an authenticator app, make sure that you are only using something that's kind of verified, like LastPass Authenticator or Google Authenticator. It is an additional app that you download on your phone, and it is free. If it ever asks you for payment, you've downloaded the wrong one. And this is where you scan a QR code in the background settings. When you're setting up the 2FA, it will generate an automatic code which you enter. And then every time you go to log in, you just open your app and enter the code that's in your Google Authenticator app. So yeah, see what programs that you have your teams on and where you can enable to force 2FA or MFA for all users. So if you have something like a CRM, like a customer relationship management program that you have, or something like Xero, where you can add multiple users. If you have multiple users on any account, you should be able to force 2FA or MFA for all users. So those are my top three. So number one was commercial grade antivirus. Number two was using a secure password manager like LastPass. And number three, incorrect up here, is to enable two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication on absolutely everything you can. Now, if you think you've got all of those sorted and you're super savvy, which I know that probably most of you will definitely need to work on implementing some of those steps, but that's okay. That's why we're here. I also have some extra tips for you that are not too complicated, which it would be good for you to consider. So cyber insurance. Does your business have cyber insurance? Most businesses will say no. Some business structures, for example, sole traders, if you go and get types of cover for yourself, like for public liability or professional indemnity, sometimes you can include a cyber policy or a cyber clause into your bundle of cover. If you're a company or a business or you've got a different kind of cover, you normally need to take out an actual separate cyber insurance policy. Now, yes, it can be expensive or it's an additional cost to your business, which you might think, I don't have the funds for that. But then you need to remind yourself, if I don't have all those three basic things set up in my business and I have a breach, do I have the funds to pay out potentially legal fees and reimbursement, like, you know, the cost of a claim against you from a client who's had their data breached, plus the costs that are associated with, for example, getting a cyber expert into your business to minimize the breach, assess the breach, and then all of the running around that you've got to do in terms of trying to advise your clients, not to mention the loss of business that you're going to receive during this time. So if you can say, yes, I have 100%, I've got millions in the bank that can cover that, it doesn't matter, it's not going to matter if I get a breach, then no, you probably don't have you don't need to have a cyber policy. But if you are in that situation as well, you probably need to consider, there's probably enough income coming through my business and I'm probably a little bit at higher risk as well, or maybe I'm a more prominent target for cyber attacks. So yes, again, it's still worth getting a cyber insurance policy. Now, this is something that I recommend you get a broker for, so an insurance broker. Some people don't even know that insurance brokers exist, but this is where you go and you get an actual insurance broker to work out what are the best options for you. If you go to Steadfast or Austbrokers on Google, then you can search for cyber brokers and you can reach out or ask or request someone to get in touch with you. Don't do this as an online policy because there are a lot of complex aspects to this kind of insurance. So a broker can talk you through complex assessment forms. This is where they actually do a pre-assessment of your business and your risk level and what kind of cover you need before actually looking at the policy that's appropriate for you. So how much cover, risk level, your current exposure. So they'll actually ask you to honestly answer questions about, do you have the antivirus on everything? Do you have a secure password manager? Are all of your users, actively applying cybersecurity methods where possible? Because that exposure level is also going to indicate A, where you need to implement more steps to secure your business, and B, make sure that you have an appropriate amount of insurance coverage in those cases that this does come to a breach. And then they'll also tell you what needs to be in place to avoid a decline in the event of a breach. So having the insurance policy is not enough. You actually need to actively be implementing and engaging in secure cybersecurity steps every single day in your business, because if you do get a breach and they do an assessment on the event and what happened and how it was caused, they can decline you for the simplest things. So if you didn't have an antivirus on one person's computer or it expired, you didn't have a firewall set up on your business Wi-Fi network, they can actually decline your cover and you are completely exposed as if you didn't have a policy. So this is why you want to have a broker do this with you rather than doing it as an online product. And always, always, always read the full policy in PDS. So I worked in general insurance for 2-3 years, and you would be amazed the number of issues that we would see because someone hasn't read the full policy or the PDS, or how many policies don't protect you in certain circumstances because it's in the fine print in the PDS that they send you. So always read it cover to cover. It will take you a maximum of 15-20 minutes. Get a cup of tea, get a Tim Tam, sit down and just read it. So that's cyber insurance. I think I've sold that to you enough. And then also another advanced recommendation is data storage. So how are your payments processed? Where are you storing your customer data? How is the software that you use actually protected? So most businesses will store client data for a certain amount of time. They probably don't know when you need to delete it. How long legally are you required to store this personal data and their payment methods, especially if you do take payments? And do you have processes in place for deletion of data after this period? Something that I would recommend doing is reaching out to, if there's an industry body for the industry that you work in, reaching out to them and asking them that question. Do you know legally how long I'm required to store clients' personal data for? Or when do I need to delete it? So like the issue that happened with the Latitude breach, they had data in there that they shouldn't have had on file after that amount of time, which put more people at risk than was necessary because those people were no longer clients, or some of those people were no longer clients. So for your business, go reach out if there's an industry body, if there's a peak organization, or you can also go and talk to, the ATO or the service kind of or industry and business sort of organization through your government, and ask them those questions. And then make sure that you have a process in place to delete them. It can be as simple as every single March, the data from 10 years prior gets all completely wiped, and someone has that job of going into the records and making sure any data within that is deleted. how your payments processed and how's the software protected. A lot of the time we use a third party for that. So something like Xero or something like Stripe or PayPal. And you probably think if PayPal or that other company, if I have a payment information breach, then that's a problem for that organization. If they've got their payment details, then surely that's a PayPal problem, or that's a Stripe problem. But the reality is, if you haven't set up secure steps in your business and they have accessed that information through your business somehow, whether that's through your Wi-Fi, whether it's through your emails, whether it's through an insecure account for something or a password that's easy to guess, it's actually your problem. So if you have that data stored in your account and someone has been able to access your Stripe account or your Xero account or your PayPal account through your business or through your login, that's a you problem. So make sure that you've always got secure passwords for those programs. Make sure that you're not storing credit card details in any files that are like on your Google Drive or something, or that they're deleted or redacted as soon as you've utilized them. Unless you're like a credit provision agency, which is going to be too big for the scope of this program anyway. And then making sure that you're updating that program, the password for those regularly, and you've got your multi-factor authentication set up too. And then do you have a privacy policy? And do you make that available to clients? And do you adhere to your privacy policy? A lot of people don't actually have a privacy policy, or maybe they just copy and pasted one from the internet that they just chuck on their website. You actually want to review that, or have someone from a legal profession review that and make sure that you are adhering to those privacy policy rules in your business. And things like TFNs. Now, not everyone is going to, this isn't going to be relevant to everyone, but if you're, say, for example, a small mortgage broking business, or you're an insurance broker, or, a small financial services firm with under 20 staff, you actually collect TFNs as part of some of the business dealings that you do. And you have to make sure that those are immediately deleted after entering those into the third-party system, for example, for a mortgage application, and that they are redacted on any other forms that you have saved into your files. So that is about data storage. And then I think this is the last one that we're talking about, is use of VPN. So a VPN is a virtual private network. And what this is it protects your device by creating, and now I'm not sure the technicalities on this, I don't think it creates a firewall, but it creates a layer of protection when you are using a different Wi-Fi to your own. So normally if you're running a business from home, one of the things you would want to talk to your internet provider about is making sure that your actual Wi-Fi at home is secure. Normally this is some kind of firewall that's been installed, or making sure that the password to access your Wi-Fi has been changed to something secure. Things like that. That's something that you would want to talk to your internet provider about, to ask them more on. But when you, say, for example, go and work at a friend's house, or you've got to go to your parents' house for the day and you take your laptop and you do a bit of work there, or maybe you're doing a coffee meeting and you take your laptop and you need to do a few things, so you connect to the coffee shop Wi-Fi or the Westfield Wi-Fi, your data security is immediately at risk, because you cannot make a guarantee for the protection of those Wi-Fi networks. And it can be very easy for people to use that Wi-Fi network to get a connection to your computer and then basically rip out whatever data they want. So the use of a VPN, a virtual private network, is something that you can get with your antivirus software. Or for some things like, for example, I use a Chromebook, it actually comes built in with a VPN function, which I can turn on and off. Now, a VPN, like I've just written here, needs to be actively turned on in most cases. So you actually need to open your antivirus software and click on for your VPN. Or on my Chromebook, I actually need to go down to my little settings bar, click on the VPN button, and that will throw up a little bit of a shield to the Wi-Fi network that I'm on currently. So making sure you're using that, again, it's through your antivirus, or it will be something available on your computer already. using that anytime you are not on your home or business network, providing you've also made sure that your home and business network for Wi-Fi is nice and secure as well. Education, teaching your staff, and it might even just be your husband or your wife, whoever is working in business with you, teaching them how to identify suspicious emails, texts, calls, links, malware, to be always vigilant about the risks that are open to your business. So this is something that is normally the biggest contributing factor to a cybersecurity breach or a risk or an attack, is the endpoint user, as they call it. So that is the actual staff member sitting in front of a computer, and they have done something. They've either clicked on something, they've not enabled a VPN, they haven't updated their passwords, they're not using a secure password manager. That is the #1 reason for cybersecurity attack breaches. So educating every single person, again, whether it's your husband or wife, doesn't matter, make them watch the replay of this, this webinar to make sure they know how to identify suspicious things that they either shouldn't be interacting with, or they should be reporting somehow. So always, for example, if you receive a link by a text message or by email, always externally search for that link. And I don't mean type it into the bar. I mean, look for the search terms that they've kind of outlined in that message. For example, there's a really good one going around at the moment for the linked or the toll payments, saying you have an unpaid toll. Please click here to pay $4 something. A lot of people have been caught by clicking on the link in that, instead of going to their toll provider, logging into their account securely, hopefully with their 2-factor authentication, and then viewing, do I have any outstanding tolls? And if so, making your payment through your verified, your actual secure, safe provider, instead of clicking that link. So always externally search a link if unsure. Always request a case number or call a company back on their main line if you're asked for personal or account details. So sometimes we send an inquiry to a company through their chat function or through their inquiry form about an issue with your account, and sometimes they will call you directly, and their immediate security step is to ask you to provide answers to your verification questions, whether that's your first name, last name, email address, and postcode, or it might be more complicated. It might be security questions. Every single time you get a phone call like that, especially if you don't recognize the number or it comes up with a funny name on it, for example, sometimes the Google phones, or I don't know about iPhones, they might do the same thing, show who's calling, like if it's a business name. If you're in any way, shape or form suspicious about the phone call because you haven't made an inquiry, it's about something that was a previous service that you haven't interacted with for a while, or any other reason that you think, this seems a bit weird, or just to be safe, ask them for a case number and then go and Google the actual main inquiry line for that business and simply call them back. You are so much more secure if you just give them a call back, say, hey, my issue is relating to a previous inquiry. Here's my case number. Okay, cool, sure. And then they can work it out with you directly. And then you can know that you're answering your security questions safely, rather than having someone like a hacker basically ask you, oh, sorry guys, ask you for your secure information. It's my German Shepherd trying to guard. Now, on that, there's another great video, which if I find it, I'll send it to you, but it was essentially a woman who's a professional hacker. Now, people are actually employed to attempt to hack into companies so that they can actually identify where their risks are of breach. So it was a professional hacker who actually showed her method of obtaining access to a person's account for something. So what happened was she basically played a YouTube video in the background of a baby crying. She had the email address and the name, which was stolen from other data, sources that may have been taken through Medibank breach or through the Optus breach. And she called their main line and said, hi, I need to change the account details for our energy account. My husband's at work at the moment. And the person said, okay, we don't actually have you listed on the account. We would need to speak to your husband. And she said, look, my baby's crying. There's a baby screaming in the background from her YouTube video. Can you not just add me as an account user and I can sort this out? And he goes, oh, look, what we could do is we can ask you the security questions. And if you answer them successfully, then yes, we can help you with resetting your password and paying your account or whatever it was. And she said, yeah, here's the email address. Here's the first name. They asked a couple more questions, which I think she either guessed and or had the information that had been stolen from another data breach. And they said, okay, perfect. They set her up within 10 minutes. They set her up as an additional user on the account. She was then able to ask or request a password change, which she managed to do on the phone. Then she was able to log in on her computer and completely change all of the details in there and obtain payment information, credit card information, account information, everything. So it's an incredible example. And if I find it, I will send it to you guys in the email that goes out after this. But it was an incredible example of just how easy it is sometimes for these people to hack into your accounts. So that's why, long story short, always request a case number and call the company back if they give you a call and it seems suspicious. And then have someone in charge of managing suspicious activity, e.g. in the Google admin space. So sometimes you'll actually receive a notification saying there was this suspicious login to your account in this location. We received a potential phishing link, things like that you'll get through to your email. And you actually want to have someone, whether it's yourself or your partner or your business partner or a staff member, actually responsible for going into the administration account for your email address or for your email client and checking that activity. What was it? Who tried to access it? What was the, what was the location? Was the sender legitimate? And then you can actually mark in the admin settings whether or not that was a risk and choose an action, whether it's to block that email address, change the password to the login that was affected. And making sure you have someone actually in charge of that means that it's not just becoming, oh, someone else will deal with it. Someone else is probably onto that. Someone else is going to look at that. And then educating your teams on all of these essentials that we've talked about, the 1, 2, 3, that we discussed to reduce this endpoint or user risk as well. So that's it from me, guys. I know I've covered a lot. I will send out a recording of this as well for you to view. And if you've got any questions, you're more than welcome to send them through now in the Q&A. I'll just stay on for a little bit longer. But I hope I've made cybersecurity, or the topic of cybersecurity, a little bit more interesting and engaging for you. It's actually a fascinating topic when you get into it. I've been very lucky to attend a lot of great cyber presentations, having worked in general insurance. I did their events management, so I was able to sit through all of these presentations, and it was absolutely fascinating when you get down to the details in cyber security. And I highly recommend that you definitely go about and make sure that you've implemented those 3 key tactics, and then consider the advanced topics that we've talked about as well. If there's any more questions, please let me know. You'll obviously be able to reply to my email as well. Thank you, Tracy. I'm excited for you getting cybersecurity in your insurance as well. It's definitely worthwhile, and remember to do it through a broker as well, because they're going to be able to support you through the whole process. And don't feel overwhelmed if you go and speak to a broker and they say, okay, answer this questionnaire, and you think, oh my God, I need to answer the questions as if I'm the best behaving cybersecurity expert they've ever seen. Actually go to them before you fill it out and say, hey, look, we actually don't have some of these things in place. Can you recommend, or can you give me a list, for example, of things that we really should do to make sure that we can proceed with getting appropriate cover? They're there to support you. You'll your payment to the broker will actually be incorporated into your fees anyway, that you pay for your policy, and it's normally not as exorbitant to go through a broker as you think. I do my landlord's policy through and my home insurance policy through a broker, just because I know how great insurance brokers are. Looks like there's no more questions, so thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe, as they say.